Welcome to the Business of You podcast, the show dedicated to helping service entrepreneurs build a better brand to grow a bigger business. I'm your host, Michelle Griffin, and I'm here each week empowering you to put yourself out there, sharing actionable tips and inspiring stories so you can create your personal brand, grow your dream business, and build your future, all while making more income and more impact doing exactly what you love. I'm super excited you're here. Now let's get going with today's show. Welcome to the show again, everybody. I am Michelle Griffin, your host of the Business of You. Today we are in for a special treat. I'm having all my founding guests these first episodes, and my friend here, Karen Tisdell, all the way from Australia. You will recognize her from a previous episode where we really dug into LinkedIn and about summaries. And as I said in that interview, we want Karen back. Karen is amazing. So Karen, welcome again to the show. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. So it's really lovely being with you, and I really love what you're putting out here. I think a podcast that's really helping people with their personal branding is just so important. We all need to stand out. And we're all meeting so many more people than our parents did or our grandparents did. So investing in that personal brand has never been more important.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Well, for those who may have not caught the first episode, tell us a little bit more exactly what you do and who do you work with and all the good things about you, Karen.
When you say all the good things, the first thing that comes to mind is all the bad things. What is with that?
You can tell us those too.
I'm a LinkedIn profile writer. I also do LinkedIn training. I'm lucky to have been ranked as one of the top 8 LinkedIn trainers across Asia Pacific. But I think I just rank quite highly because I keep quite niche. I'm really all about LinkedIn personal branding and profiles. So not doing what you do, which is really around helping people find who their brand is, but I'm more around once you know what it is, how do you write about it on your LinkedIn profile and how do you reach out to people? So I'm essentially a LinkedIn profile writer based here in Sydney, Australia.
Yeah, well, very good. Well, that's so true because, people in anything, when I'm working with my branding clients, I'm like, we need to get you dialed in before your profile because you can, like anything in social media, just put stuff out there, but it's not going to stick until you have a cohesive message of who you are, what your goals are, and how you want to stand out. And that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm so excited to, talk about visibility, standing out, like you mentioned on LinkedIn. And that's where most of us here who are listening today hang out. Okay, so LinkedIn is our place. How do we stand out more? Today, we're going to get into the profile tips and how to build your brand. So if you are just starting on LinkedIn, say I meet a lot of people who are reintroduced to LinkedIn. They set up their profile 10 years ago, 5 years ago, and now they're starting to hear some buzz that LinkedIn is not a job site or just a recruiter site. Where does someone start and why is a LinkedIn profile so important?
Absolutely. We touched on this last episode. I think people really need to start with what they stand for, which is why they need to do the work with somebody like you, what they stand for and what are the problems they solve. So when you identify what are the problems you solve and who you solve for, you shift the focus from writing a LinkedIn profile that impresses you to writing a profile that impresses your audience. Because so many times we get tempted to write something that really impresses us. And so we think that we're our audience or we're not our audience. So we really need to get out of our own head and work with somebody to identify, what are our audience's pain points and how do I describe myself in a way that solves those audiences' problems. So it's really, that's the starting point, is thinking, why am I on LinkedIn? And looking at your LinkedIn profile and thinking, if you wrote it 5-10 years ago and you just cut and pasted bits of your resume, and you're not looking for a job anymore because you're running your own business, or maybe what you're doing has changed. Maybe you're at a higher level. Are you talking the language of your stakeholders? Because, when you go to another country, if you can pick up a few of the local words and use them, people love that. They love it when people feel like you're making an effort to meet them where they're at. And so a LinkedIn profile needs to do the same. It needs to be not pitching yourself as the hero, but pitching yourself as the trusted guide.
Exactly. And, like you said, having that goal in mind is everything because you could be on LinkedIn to look for a job. There's plenty of those people, and I'm sure you work with those when you write profiles. And that's a whole different positioning as someone who is, an entrepreneur, has their brand, or wants to be the face of their brand or founder. And I see this a lot. These people who want to stand out, attract clients and other opportunities, they're positioning their profile more like a job search. Do you see that to be one of the bigger problems?
So much, so much. I think, we talked a lot about the about section, so we're, not going to touch on that today. But so many times people have an about section that starts off with, I am a senior leader with 25 years of, and I'm like, oh, it's the same as everybody else's. And it sounds like a resume. You're not talking with me. You're not discussing my issues. You're not addressing my pain points, and they've got a background banner that just doesn't really capture the difference they deliver. It doesn't visually personify what it is they do. So it's really important, when we think of, is it Jeff Bezos? How do you pronounce his name?
Jeff
The leader.
Bezos, I believe,
Bezos.
is.
Thank you.
Yes,
I
yes.
knew you would know. So, he always says, the leader of Amazon, he always says you need to leave a seat at the table for your customer. And I think when we're writing our profile and we're creating content on LinkedIn and we're reaching out to people, we need to always leave a seat at the table for our customer. Who's our customer? Give them a name. Think about who they are and make sure that your profile is attractive to them, not you. You're not your audience.
Oh, I couldn't have said that better. And the customer's persona, like if you're trying to get speaking engagements, clients, funding, whatever it is you're trying to get, you have a customer and there's something that you can help them with as a problem, So I think positioning that. So since we heavily went through the about section, and for those who have not listened to it, I highly recommend you go. We did a huge deep dive. We did it in a story brand framework. We actually had some points of difference, if I remember straight, Karen, and we talked about it. So there's a lot to learn from that episode. It's actually a little bit of a bonus episode where I think we went to like 40 minutes. So a lot of good stuff there. Check it out. And I'll put
We
the
had a
link in the
great
show
debate,
notes.
didn't
We
we?
we sure did.
And all sorts of stuff we did. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's how you learn. So I'll link that episode in the show notes. But today I want to do about the profile. Presumably, what I'm thinking is the top heavy part. I see a lot of banners that are incomplete. And tell me if this is what you see as the common problems. Their title is just their job position, their picture's wrong. So if someone's going to start saying, okay, I need to dial in my profile to get me looking really good, where do we start? What's the first steps to kind of revamp and make it over?
Yeah. So once you've got your problems in mind, you know what problems you solve, have a look at your profile photo. A lot of profile photos are not great. They think they're great, but they're not. It's really important to have eye contact in your profile photo. And so don't wear glasses and don't stand a big distance away from the camera. If you're going for a whole torso shot, and even sometimes like a whole head and shoulders shot, sometimes you're too far away from the camera, particularly if you've got deep set eyes, for me to see in your eyes. We build trust through our eyes. So if I can't see your eyes, I can't trust you. So make sure people can see your eyes, that you've got some light in your eyes, and don't have your photo too airbrushed. I think in the era that we're living in, one of the things I love about you, Michelle, is you have such an expressive face. And I think increasingly we're seeing, with your lovely big eyes. I hope people watch your videos. But I think a lot of people on their profile photos, we are seeing a lot of people who, perhaps have removed so many of their wrinkles and so many of their lines, and their face just doesn't move enough and there's not enough expression. With their LinkedIn profile photo, make sure that your photographer doesn't airbrush out all of your features. So many photographers do that, and it's actually the expression on your face that makes you more likable, so don't have it too airbrushed, have it really close up, and really show who you are, because that connects us on a human to human level. Don't have an airbrush photo. Having that background banner, so behind your photo, you've got a great big space, and think about what you want to put there. So a lot of people have had a speaking engagement, especially if they're in a senior role, so they'll put up there a picture of them on a stage because it's quite impressive. And I'm like, so you want speaking engagements? They're like, no, I want more clients. Okay. Are your clients going to be impressed by you on a stage? Like, what is it you want more of? Think about your clients. What do they want to see? And make sure it's a visual representation of the problems you solve. And if you're struggling to think of what that could look like, you're not alone. Whenever I and my graphic designer, I've got 2 graphic designers, are helping people create their LinkedIn background banners, I'm putting into Google different words and then clicking on images to go, oh, yeah, that feels right. That feels right. So, just do a bit of a Google search, have a bit of a play around the words that epitomize the problems you.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. Banners are a sticking point for me because, like you say, I call it to my clients. I'm like, these are like going down a highway, a freeway, interstate, whatever, and having a blank billboard. You're missing everything there. And the problem is, though, prime real estate, but either they're leaving it blank, or I've seen some that are so busy you can't even focus, right? Billboards aren't meant to have a book on them. So I want to ask you that question. So you have a senior leader, and some of our audience here can be senior leaders building their personal brands to be more forward facing. And you say, find a picture or representation, not on what you are, but what your customers want or need. What would you suggest for something like that as a visual? And then also, one of the things I see is they just have visuals. Do you suggest like some kind of simple text or tagline?
Yes,
What are
I
your
do.
thoughts on the visuals and the text on the banner?
Yes, I do. But just make sure that they're really legible. So, you don't want them to be competing with attention with your profile photos. Make sure that they're on the right where your photo's on the left. Make sure that the font is really quite big and quite readable. White font typically comes out gray on LinkedIn. So have a think about, maybe blurring sort of that image and fading out that photo or something. And you can do all of this on a great website called Canva, Canva, which is a great Australian invention, can I just say?
Oh, I love
And
Canva.
yeah, it was invented by 2 Australian women. So, have some big text there that, have a trawl through. If you have a website, have a look through your website and think, what words has my copywriter created that are sort of, 3 to 6 words. You really don't want to have more than 6. And think as well about having a website address on there if it's not looking too cluttered, so
Okay.
something that's really quite visual. I also think with that headline, the bit that sits underneath your name, I think increasingly people are thinking about their audience when it comes to their headlines, and they're not just having their job titles there. We do see that a lot, but I think that's less now than we used to. But I think people need to get to the point quicker. So we forget that we read left to right. And so studies have shown that when people get to 4 to 6 words, they actually almost stop reading and start. As somebody who is a massive reader, I thought, no, that's not true. I read everything. But actually, when I observed myself, I really don't. I start reading and then I switch to skimming. So make sure that you're capturing the pain points of your audience or being crystal clear in what you do in the first sort of 4 to 6 words, ideally the first 4, because attention spans are so short. And we're seeing headlines everywhere. So, when you have a look at your messages box and you're direct messaging somebody, you've got the headline at the top, but you've only got, about sort of, I think it's about 45 or so, sort of characters at the top before it cuts out. And if you're commenting on somebody's comment on a post, then again, you're only seeing the first word. So don't keep your big ticket item at the very end of that sentence. It's more important to have the right keywords up front than to have a clever slogan.
I was going to ask you about that because I'm like the perfect storm and everything is to have it, get what you can say in your saying or your title or whatever your thing you do in that first, 50 characters. I see either people, mine like is yours. It has, what I do. And then I have my, my helpful saying, because I just think that people can cognate a LinkedIn profile writer, because I'm looking at yours, faster than, a lot of people will lead with I help. And I guess that's too, and it's more of an individual thing, but what is your take? Is there an official right or wrong, or is it more just a personal preference?
I think talk about what you do, like get right to the beef of it, if it is profile writing, if it is, personal branding, like talk about what you do, the difference you deliver straight up front. you know,
Okay.
as you say that I help, da, 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 da. Yeah, you and everybody else. It also can feel like a sales pitch.
Yeah.
So being a bit more matter of fact about it can feel less salesy. Like I help. Oh yeah, here we go. If I connect with this person, I know what's coming next. The very next message they're going to send me is going to be a spam. It's going to be a, hey, thanks for accepting my invite. This is where you can jump on a 15-minute call and I'll try and sell you
Yes.
something. You know, so
Yes.
we've all had those messages. So when you start with, I help busy professionals, you know, yeah, no, you're just selling to me. So I would sort of get straight to the point. And I know you said ask for only 3 tips, but another thing that I think is quite underutilized is the featured section. Don't you
Mhm.
think?
Oh,
You know?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're not getting to your 3 takeaways a little bit
Right.
later, so we'll take
Sorry.
that toward the end. No, I know you want to jump ahead. The featured section, oh my goodness, between the banner, which people leave out, and then the featured section, I look at it as your showcase page. That's where you can do a little bit more of spotlight on you with, because they know. Now you want to still do a respectful thing. I've seen all different ways. I've seen post, I've seen, book me pages or book me slots or whatever. What are some of the things that you recommend if for our audience here who are building their personal brands, not someone getting a job? So what do you think for those audience and, that section? What's ideal? What do you suggest?
I I quite like a book me page. I always used to have there an article that I'd written for Social Media Examiner or, something that had really impressed me, like, oh, I got this. So I'll put it on there so that everybody knows how great I am at profile writing because I was awarded this or that, or, and then I was talking to somebody and I just thought, oh my gosh, I'm doing what I tell people not to do. I'm doing my profile for me to make me feel okay. We all have a little bit of imposter syndrome. So
Yeah.
if we can upload an award we've won or something like that, like, oh, I'm okay because I've won this award. So we feel like it's social proof. But I think that instead, whereas content sells and your profile tells, if somebody has taken the time to look at your profile, you want to reel them in. You don't want to be too salesy, especially in that about section and in your headline, but you also want to flatten the path to purchase. So
Yes.
having a book me page or having a website, so I've uploaded my website and I've put on there, this is where you can find out about my services and my fees and this and that. I've got everything out there. So you're
Oh,
not
that's
left
great.
thinking, how much is she going to cost? Can I book her? Is that what I want? Does she work with people globally or not? So you're not left wondering all these things. It's just boom, it's there. So I think put yourself in your client's point of view and think, make it easy for them to see how much you cost, to see what you offer, to see what your website is, have everything on the table. So I think that should go in your featured section.
That's a good point. So by doing so, there people who book you are usually ready to buy. They've gotten all the questions, all the friction, all the hesitations. You alleviated them in your website with everything, and that saves us all time. So we find and attract their ideal people we want to work with, and they can find you. So I like that. Take the friction out. What was the saying you said? Contents. Tell me that again. It's in the show notes, but I just
Your
really love that.
content tells
Yes.
and your profile sells. So
Okay.
I think a lot of people, I think we have a muscle memory around creating content. Creating content must be advertising. I must
Yes.
advertise
Yes.
because, any of us, I mean, I grew up in the 1980s, I'm that old. Your audience probably grew up in the 1990s, but even in the 1990s, people were still advertising. Marketing was huge and it was
Yep.
all about marketing, people
Yes.
pushing things at you. So I think we have a muscle memory around I'm creating content, I must advertise. I must have this is where you can book me in every piece of content. I must have a call to action constantly. And I think we're fatigued by calls to action and fatigued by being sold to. So I think our content just needs to add value and give information and pull attention to our profile.
Well
So
said.
your
That's well
content
said.
tells and your profile sells, because once you've got somebody to your profile, that's when they're a bit more intrigued and they're thinking, I might be interested in buying, maybe. So that's
Yes.
where they want it all laid out. How much does it cost? What does she offer? All of that sort of thing. So I think your content, your profile sells.
It's like a mini web page if you do it right, and web page that should be all about the client, not about you. So I know we won't go into the about section because we got heavily in that last time. It's a great deep dive. You can learn everything. We went through a whole template, a whole step by step. So that one's a jewel. So these are great tips. I mean, everyone should take notes here, which we'll have the show notes, of course. But Karen, I know you're talking about a profile just like the whole synopsis of LinkedIn. I call it a community when done right. It's all about giving, showing up, knowing who you are in that one thing, and just giving content, giving value. And another thing I tell my clients, look, you can have a profile, but it's not going to do you any good if you don't use it, right? You can have a profile, but it's not a build it, people are going to come to you thing. You have to put that content out there. You have to go connect with people, right? It's just one part of the sequence, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think so. Having a great profile is fantastic. But as a profile writer, I'm very much into not over promising. I'm always saying to people, this is not a silver bullet. If we think of LinkedIn as the world's biggest networking event, you've put on your best suit, you've gone to a networking event, that's having a great profile, but you're standing in the corner and you're not talking to anybody. You need to get out. You need to use the search tools at the top and realize that the search function is not just for names. You can put keywords in there. You can reverse engineer your success by finding people that could be alliance partners and referral partners, by growing your network with the right people. You need to be creating content. There's a lot of different moving parts and you need to have them all going. And the wonderful thing is they don't cost anything.
That's the beauty of it. And just getting out there consistently. So this has been a wonderful overview about, how to at least get that top part. We really worked on today, how to get that top part. And we know the profile is so involved, but I think the top part, it's like a website. The above the fold is what people see first, right? And so if anyone wants help in the about section, they could go to the episode where we dive deep on that. Well, here's the part of the podcast, our show today, where we talk about the 3 top takeaways that if someone was just coming in and out, what would these 3 things be about how to get a really good standout LinkedIn profile?
Have a great photo, zoom it in, don't have it too airbrushed, make yourself look, you want to look real. I quite like a Canva ring or a frame around your LinkedIn profile just to make it pop that much more. Have a background banner that focuses on what you want to be known for, and that headline section. Get to the point quickly. Don't be too smarmy and too clever with a catchphrase. Get straight to the point of what it is you do.
Okay, well, I love that. And I've been a Canva Pro fan and member customer since 2015. I love Canva. I use it every day. So with that, in celebration of your Australian roots in Sydney, we're going to put the link to Canva's. There's a special link I can put. They have, for anyone just starting out, they have 50 LinkedIn, and they have a LinkedIn banner template, and it's 50 of them, I think. You can definitely customize. So if you don't have a graphic designer, you have a blank profile banner, we can at least get you started by putting that link on, finding something, customizing it, and getting it out there. So we're going to put that in the show notes. I think that'll be helpful. Canva, you can always go in and put your picture and put a color background. So again, Canva for the win, right? So we love Canva, and I'm going to put that because I think don't you think that would be at least a good start if someone doesn't have their own designer yet?
Amazing. Even when you do have your own designer, they're just using Canva as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yes,
yeah.
exactly.
When I talk about a frame around your profile photo, you can put a frame around your profile photo using Canva so easily.
Yes.
There's also another website that I love, and it's www.remove.bg.
Oh, yes. Love that
Yeah,
one.
and remove.bg. So for those of you who are looking at this on video, you can see my books behind me and a little candle. I've got big fluffy hair, which doesn't always help. Bald people look awesome on remove.bg because it'll remove all of the background, and I can make the whole background like a bright purple
Yes.
or green or something, that really just goes pop. So in a world where we're all competing for attention, having a profile photo that looks genuine and really pops is really important.
Oh yeah. Well, mine's got my brand color yellow there. So there's an example right there. Well, good. Well, those are some our show notes are stacking up with a lot of helpful resources today. This is a great episode. So before we close out about where to find you, every guest gets asked this question because I really believe we can all learn from everyone's professional or personal mantra. What is your favorite saying? It can be personal or professional that you say to yourself, you believe in, and you want to share with our listeners today.
I think my personal mantra is meeting people where they're at. I think it's so easy to get caught up in, and I'm unlike most writers, I'm actually an extrovert. So I think I'm hardwired to listen to reply. And instead I've had to learn to listen. And I think everybody in business needs to meet people where they're at, not where you're at. So my personal mantra is meet people where they're at.
Well,
That's
that
my,
goes really well with the whole story brand thing and the customer is a hero. So that's really well,
yeah.
well played, Karen. Well played.
Well, it's just been a life learning for me.
Yeah.
So
And
I
exactly.
have that front of mind all the time. Meet people where they're at. I'm also quite impatient. I'm quite an energetic, like, what are the outcomes we're achieving? Da, 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 da. So having that as literally as a post-it note, like
Yes.
on everything, meet people where they're at, just reminds me, Karen, it's got
Patience.
their pace, not your
Yes.
pace, their pace.
Oh, I can relate completely. Well, that's a really good one. Thank you for sharing that. Well, tell everyone where we can find you, like your website, your profile to follow you. Where can we find you, Karen Tisdell?
Wow, I should be saying seek me out on LinkedIn and click follow. And I would love it if people did that. And I love how you say my name. So it's Tisdell. So Tisdell, Tisdell. And Karen, oh my gosh, there's hundreds of Karens, right? Let's not go there. So, so you can find me on LinkedIn. But I'm very excited that I've got a new website, which is karentisdell.com. So it's been a long time in the coming, and I've finally got a website done. So
It looks great.
Did you have this?
Oh yeah, and your profile and your branding photos are great. I know they're on your banner now. First class, great job. I know that was a lot of work, but you did a great job. So go check out her new website. Follow Karen on LinkedIn because I will give her a shout out. She's got amazing. You do a lot of good articles too, right? That just really dive deep. And then you've got that really good emoji article that's in your featured section. So if you need emoji help and all that, that's a really good resource too. Is that still there? Because I just told everyone to go look for it.
I will always keep that there because
you
can use Emojipedia. There's keyboard shortcuts. There's so many ways that you can find emojis. And it's good to have sparing use of emojis through your profile. And you can even use them in your headline. You could have a little dot or a little square or something that's just a little bit more imaginative than a pipe, an up and down line. So emojis really do make your profile pop that much more, but you don't know what you need until you see it. So you might think, oh, I would never put a star in my headline, but it's not until you see that some of the stars are actually quite small and
tasteful.
Classy. So, and tasteful that you go, oh, actually, maybe I could. So that article will always be on my profile.
Well, that's because that's a resource. Not everyone knows about that. And for instance, if you go to Karen's profile, hopefully it's still here on the time of this airing, you have the Australian flag, which I love. So
I will always have that too. Yeah. Just where I am and that I don't work globally. Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's great. Well, Karen, as always, you're the first guest who's appeared twice. So you definitely have something special, double the effort, double the
I'm the first one in the Two Timers Club.
The Two Timers Club. So thank you so much, Karen. You and I could talk forever, but for the sake of boring everyone, we're going to shut off now and we'll probably talk after this. But thank you again for being on the Business of You podcast. And we will talk with you soon. Take care.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so much for tuning in today. We definitely need more impactful entrepreneurs like you out there. So if you'd like to learn more about how I can help you build your personal brand to grow your business, please check out yourbrandyourbusiness.com. And until next time, you have a brand to build, a message to share, and people to impact. Now go put yourself out there and watch the business of you grow.